All right, everybody, welcome back to the Roofr Masterclass. I am your host, Pete, with my co-host, Nick, and our newest partner, Corey Combs from South Shore Roofing. So excited for this one. It's not often that we get the opportunity to have someone from the industry who's, pretty well known, a good face of the industry, but also a great user of our product on that can, jump on here and kind of give you guys some insight into, how he found Roofr, why he uses Roofr, and how he effectively puts Roofr into his process. So really excited to have you on today, Corey. I know I'm sure Nick's got a lot of stuff he wants to talk to you about too. So I'll give you a second here to just do a quick intro and in case there's anybody on here that doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, I'm Corey Combs, owner, South Shore Roofing and Exteriors. I've been in the industry going on 28 years now. Started as a laborer tearing off tar and gravel roofs. If you've never done that, I highly suggest it. It's a good time. And then, kind of worked my way up through the ranks, installed all that stuff. So I've been in the roofing industry a long time. Worked for a lot of different companies, and then in 2018 decided to open mine in Tampa, and we've scaled since 2018. We scaled from nothing to 8 figures, and one of the reasons is adopting technology, using technology, and some of the stuff that has come to the market as of late. And so that's a little bit about me. Florida native, which is a little rare.
Yeah. I think the real question is the amount of hair that we have directly proportionate to our time in the industry?
I'm going to say yes. That's the only explanation I've got.
Guys, this is a wig. I've been.
I was going to say you're in the minority today with that.
I put this on. It's just not real. So.
Yeah. I my whole family. I'm like the only bald one, man. It's just I don't get it.
Stress-induced baldness, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, really excited to dive into this because I think, one of the things that we often talk about internally here, and Nick can vouch for this, is adoption, right? And getting people to really see the value in the product and understand how to best adopt it and really maximize it, right? Like we have a great team of folks, that are, in-house that train and help you get set up, and that's all free. You take advantage of it if you guys are using the software to get with your customer success person. But even so, I think a lot of times when it comes to the implementation into the business, so many guys are potentially not maximizing the use of any of their products, not just Roofr, right? I think it's a pretty common theme. I know when I used to work on the CRM side, we would see probably 75% of the people underutilizing the features that were available to them. And, it rings true here as well. So, Nick, I know you talk with contractors all day. Probably the same thing, right? You probably hear the same thing.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like when I talk to people, just trying to find out what they're using in tech, they'll say a CRM. I go, "Oh, what features are you using in that CRM?" They're like, contacts, the job board, and sometimes invoicing. And I was like, that's a pretty powerful CRM. That's all you're using? Yeah, that's it. I was like, okay, you're paying a lot for not using a lot. So it's crazy the amount of people that I think it lends to being gun shy on a lot of things and learning something, breaking the pattern of like, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like that's kind of something there. People are reluctant to get into technology and don't see the value of it until they do something like Corey does and really dives in deep and sees how quickly you can scale.
Yeah. I mean, the last company I worked for before I started my own business, they did everything. So they built their own, they had everything on SQL Server, which is a Microsoft product. And they built it all out in this really clunky, it was just, dude, it was awful. Right. But it was good in the context of it had a lot of features that I had never used before. So I learned the value of a CRM, how to use it. Their estimating program was absolutely terrible. It was wildly inaccurate. And so when I started thinking about opening my company, I'm like, all right, I had gone to IRE a couple years before, and there was Clear Estimates out there, and there were a couple of AccuLinks was out there. There was a couple other ones out there. And I said, I got to get a CRM, and I'm going to set up all my templates and all that stuff, because I saw how it worked or actually didn't work, but how it's supposed to work. Right. And so that was like, all right, I'm going to do this because it saves you a ton of time, man.
Yeah. And I think, I guess talk a little bit about that, Corey. Like when you got started, like obviously you came to, over to with me at the CRM very early on. I think you were only one employee, right? It was just you at the time.
Yeah.
And how long do you think it took for you to really like utilize that software to its fullest, and really capitalize on the features that it offered?
Man, it took like 3 years to really adopt all the features, right? Because it's like peeling the onion. You get like your core functionality, right? And you figure out like, all right, I'm going to use estimating. I'm going to use the customer relationship portion where you just use it for putting in your leads and, doing all that stuff. And we had set up some basic workflows. And then the other part of that too, I think, is you need more as you grow. So it's not so much that you don't really need the features at the time. But, so we kind of peeled the onion with that and figured out different things that we needed. And then when we grew, we figured out like how to actually use the workflows the way that they're intended. And then we figured out how to categorize stuff the right way. And so, yeah, I think that it just really takes some time.
And so originally when you were quoting inside the CRM, right?
I was.
Yeah. So at what point did you discover Roofr, and how did that kind of come about? How did that come into play?
Yeah, I built out my price books and everything in the CRM. They had an estimating feature, and it was really kind of generic looking. And then they did have a signature feature in there, but the signature feature didn't work very well, and it wasn't I don't know, whatever kind of compliant it's got to be.
Correct.
But they did have a signature feature in there, but you can only use it for certain things. And so after about a year, I was using Roofr, and by the way, I've used every Roofr product that you guys have put out. I used the marketplace, I used the instant estimator, I've used everything, right? But once you guys released the proposal side of it and you had it tied to the measurements, it was a no-brainer. I mean, because what we had to do is we had to go out, we had to take the measurement report, download that, and then go in and follow. And we followed the logic of it. It worked pretty well. It didn't take too long because we could just, go back and forth on, you had everything broken down really well in terms of like, the squares and the eaves and the rakes and all that stuff. So it didn't take long, but you still it was human error. Right. And so once I figured out how to do the proposals just from the measurements, it was a no-brainer. I mean, so it was pretty much right after you released it, we started using it.
Nice.
I can't count how many conversations you and I have had, Corey, since you started adopting proposals. I remember the call when you got onto proposals, when we had that a Zoom call. And what I've always loved about you, and there's a lot of users like you that really do help out, is the suggestions that you give us to kind of build up. You were one of the strong proponents early on talking about using adding in multi-signatures, building that out, and adding a good, better, best feature, so multi-option and all that stuff. So it's great because I've been along that journey with you and seeing all these different things, and it's really helped out with everything.
I'm gonna flip that around. I mean, it is really great to have a company that listens to its users, and you say, listen, this is really useful, but it would be a lot more useful if you guys did X, Y, and Z. And you're like, yeah, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Let's build it that way. Mm-hmm. And so it's been a really great partnership with you guys in terms of and not only that, but the functionality is always right because you guys have a background in construction. You understand like what the quoting process looks like. And then you also, you take users' feedback and you aggregate that, and then you put out really nice, clean looking technology. And mm-hmm. So it's really been great on that side for us.
Nice. Yeah. And I think, so many of our users come in initially, obviously for the measurements, right? That's our hook. That's where a lot of guys start out if they just even want to come in and try us. Carrie, if you haven't tried us yet for that, jump on there and give us a shot with measurements, if nothing else, just to get going. And then so that's kind of how you guys got started, right, Corey? You guys started with measurements, and then once the proposal feature came out, like you said, they mapped to it, so it was kind of like the next logical step for you. So I guess speak to how you were able to make the transition and what benefits you see to our proposal feature over to what you were using, in your CRM.
Well, we needed something nicer. So we don't just do roofing. We do a lot of siding as well. James Hardy, we don't do vinyl. But we needed something that, well, let me back up a little bit. I've always done a really like nice in-home presentation with either PowerPoint or something like that for our customers. And we were just having a conversation before this with somebody that works for Roofr, and she bought a roof, and I asked her why she chose the roofing company that she chose, and part of her story was there were so many blind spots that we had. We didn't know a lot of these things. We didn't know what to ask and all of that stuff. And so ultimately it came down to it was a referral from Nick and somebody else that worked at Roofr that knew the company and said, you guys checked over the estimate, said, yep, they're doing the right thing. They're a reputable company, et cetera. A lot of people don't have that. So we always had the presentation in place to help homeowners with those blind spots because we know they're there and we want to help them with it. So before Roofr released the proposal feature, we were actually using another product to create these really nice proposals and all that stuff to go through and send to the homeowners. And so when you guys released that, I was like, oh, this is really a no-brainer, because the earlier version of that didn't have the link to the measurements. And so when Nick demoed it for me, I was like, dude, this is a no-brainer, right? I mean, with being able to set up your proposals, being able to set up your price books, being able to set up all that stuff. And I had already done that in CRM, so I knew how to do it. It's really easy to do. And I think once people do it, they'll figure out it's not that hard. And especially because you can get an Excel file, CSV file from your supplier and just load it in there. It's like super simple and really easy to do. But anyway, going back to that. So we were already using something similar, but there were just so many different steps. This cut down a lot of work for us and really made it easy for us to create those proposals in literally 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing to note here is and you and I talked about it on the live the other day, is I think the traditional idea has been, even if we are someone like yourself who's doing a presentation in the home, the presentation and the proposal have been two very separate things, right? I do this presentation. Now I finish my presentation. Okay, here's my proposal, read it over and, sign it, right? And that's essentially been how we've done it. And what you guys have done is kind of taken the two of those and melded them together to where the proposal has become the presentation using Roofr. I think you're going to show the presentation here the one that you built shortly. And it's just amazing how powerful that tool is to be able to essentially take what was just the proposal and turn it into this whole entire presentation, more or less. I know you use a separate software and a lot of guys do, but like you said, this is essentially the same thing, just built inside of Roofr to be this presentation that the customer is able to sign now.
Yeah. Kate mentioned that the company just basically emailed her a PDF with basically a sheet on, the products they were going to use, a little bit on the company, and then the proposal. And the proposal I don't know what it looked like. I don't know what the estimate looked like. I don't know if it was detailed. I don't know if it had everything listed out or whatever. Most people don't know anything about roofing, and they shouldn't. We're the experts. We should explain that to them. And I feel we need to earn people's business. We need to take what we know about our consumers, which are everyday people that really never buy roofs. And we need to do the job of educating them on what they need to know in terms of buying a roof. Now, I'm going to go in with a little caveat here. Yes, I'm in Florida. Yes, it's primarily a storm state, but we do not do any storm work. We are 100% retail. However, I don't want people to think just because they do storm work, they don't need to take the same approach with the homeowners. I hear all the time, guys are like, hey, I signed a contingency with this homeowner and there was no loyalty to me. They went with another company or whatever it is, right? If you spend the time and you educate that homeowner and you build that trust in the home, even though you're not necessarily giving them a price because you're doing it for whatever the claim is and all of that stuff, the process should still be the same. You've got to measure the roof. You've got to sit down with the homeowner. You've got to get them on your side and you got to walk them through the process. So whatever the process looks like, you can use this to walk them through that process. And the most important part of this is people remember and retain information when there's visuals way, way better. Mm-hmm. And so if you're just sitting there talking to them, they're not really gonna engage all of their senses and faculties unless you're sitting there with a good presentation that reinforces what you're talking about, gives them a visual so that they can connect what you're saying to a visual. It's a million times more powerful. So if you do storm work, I don't want you to be like, I don't need to use proposals. You do need to use proposals because you still have to sit down with the homeowner and walk them through your process.
I think that's something super overlooked. And like, I've sold lots and lots and lots of roofs, and I used to do it over the phone primarily. And I took the same approach. It was all about education and transparency, right, Pete?
Yeah.
Those two fantastic.
I told you I owed him a beer for using that the other day.
Yeah, exactly. Getting you back, we're even. But it's all education, transparency. I always say that roofing's not a sexy purchase. It's not something that you brag about your friends with. It's not that new kitchen, but it's something that's protecting that home. And if you're going to drop 5 figures on it, like you're going to drop 5 figures on a car or a truck, you better tell them exactly what they're going to be paying for.
Yep.
And being able to have that visual aspect. When I used to sell over the phone, and just for anybody who's new to this, Roofr used to be a marketplace, and I was the salesperson that would take quotes like Corey's, which I sold some of Corey's jobs early on in his company as well as early on mine. And I would quote, they would upload the quote, and I would sell over the phone and Zoom. And when I was on Zoom and I was able to use visuals in there by showing the picture of their homes, the catalogs, the setup of a roof and how it's installed, it was near 100% close ratio because I combined visuals with education and transparency. And even though I was selling a roof that was more expensive than most of the other people out there, they felt more comfortable. They felt trust and stuff. And that's the big thing that I always see. And I talk to hundreds of roofers a week. I always hear from, and I'm on Facebook with you guys too, seeing all these comments in the groups, always hear from these insurance contractors that are just going in with an AOB or contingency, getting that signed and being like, I'm going to work with you on your insurance. And if they back out, why wouldn't they? Right. All they know you is like, you came in with a piece of paper, you told me what a policy was, I trusted you, but this other guy's coming in and saying, he's going to pay my deductible. I'm going to go with that guy. I don't know what's legal or not. Yeah. I don't understand what's going on my roof. I don't understand what you are doing differently.
Yeah.
So that's a huge piece there.
Yeah. I'm going to make an admission, and I don't know, it's going to be wildly unpopular, but early on in my business, like I did not have money for marketing. I didn't have, I started my business with $11,000. Right. And I went and I knocked a lot of those neighborhoods that had storm restoration contractors yard signs in there. And I could tell that they'd been there for a long time because they were faded by the sun and all that stuff. And so I just went and knocked on the door and I said, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, the same bullshit, they all use. And I just was wondering why you haven't had your roof done yet. And a lot of people said, I just haven't heard from the contractor. I was like, oh, okay. So what they do is they go and they just get a bunch of people signed. It's a volume play. I get it. But they left the homeowner wondering what was going on. And a lot of them, I'm like, well, hey, did you get your insurance check already? And they're like, yes. I was like, hey, I can do your roof next week. And they're like, really? So I did a lot of those roofs because these contractors just forgot about their homeowner and went ahead and got them on my side and did their roof. And honestly, that's part of how I built my business and and did networking and all that stuff. I wasn't Mr. Poach everybody's roofs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's easy for somebody when you have not built that trust and you haven't been transparent with them about the time that it takes with claims and all of that stuff. I was able to go in there and do it. And so what I'm saying is you're 1,000,000% right. Your ability to get people bought in on you and your company is everything. It's everything, no matter what you do. And so that's why I think that it does take a lot of that guesswork out of the hands of the homeowner when you do put a nice proposal together for them, even if you're not giving them pricing.
Yeah. John DeRosa from SRS had a line when I went to go see him speak once was sell them on your company before you sell them on the product.
You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, experience is everything. And I'm going to give Eric Richardson a shout out for this because I love it. I love the analogy and it stuck with me because it's so true. We always sell on experience. We've always sold on experience. I've always sold on experience. I mean, I worked for a remodeling contractor years ago and we were the most expensive by far. Like there wasn't even a question, but we sold on the experience. It was like the reason we're so expensive is because we're gonna set up the zip system. When zip system just came out, we're gonna mask everything off. We're gonna protect it. We're gonna put drop cloths everywhere. We're gonna vacuum your house at the end of the day. Like we sold the experience. And Eric Richardson has a really great analogy. He said it's the white T-shirt analogy, right? You have a white T-shirt that's Hanes, $6.99 at Walmart or whatever, and then you have $140 white T-shirt that's sold by Neiman Marcus. They're both white cotton T-shirts. They both do the same thing, right? But at Neiman Marcus, they have beautiful people there. It smells good. They have food. It's a really nice store. It's great, and you can say, oh, I got this shirt at Neiman Marcus, or you go to Walmart, right? It's cheap, but nobody wants to go to Walmart. You know what I mean? So that right there is just such a great analogy, but you have to demonstrate why people are going to go to Neiman Marcus to buy the same shirt. You hit the nail on the head, Nick. It's a roof. It's not sexy. It's not a sexy purchase. And we know a lot of people that can put on technically good roofs, right? That's part of our pitch. But we're not just pitching that. We're talking about all of the other things that go into the roof. And I'll show you some of the stuff that we do and how we do that.
Yeah, I remember I went to visit a company called Bachman's Roofing, and they're in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, but they do a huge business out there covering a couple different states, and they're very expensive. And I remember sitting at the table and asking them, how do you overcome the objection of being expensive? Do you do a lot of discounting? Like, what do you do? And they said, we own it. We own the fact that we're the most expensive. We go in there and we say, we're the most expensive because, better quality, better service, better reputation, all these things that set them apart that, they're able to say, like you said, like they're able to present that better experience and say, you're going to have a better experience with us. And that's what you're paying for. We can install a roof just like everybody else, but you're paying for all of the extra things that you're going to get from us that you're not going to get from the other guy.
One of our really strong come to Jesus moments with homeowners is when we ask them, you say, hey, you have 2 estimates sitting in front of you or 3 estimates sitting in front of you. How are you going to gauge the quality of the company, right? And just by looking at those estimates. and they say, well, we're going to compare apples to apples. And say, okay, what is apples to apples? They're like, oh, we're going to look at the materials, and we're going to make sure that all the materials are similar and all that. And then the next question is, okay, well, then what? Let's say you have 3 estimates that are all Owens Corning. They're all putting on the same thing. How are you going to choose the company then? And they say, well, we picked the one in the middle. Say, okay, what if that person in the middle is a terrible contractor? Then what? You've just gauged who you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars with on a piece of paper that you really don't understand. And they're like, yeah, that's okay. Because it's not just about that. I mean, you think about it on our side. If you're submitting a quote, let's say it's Owens Corning, because a lot of people use Owens Corning. Let's say you're submitting a quote with Owens Corning, and you go and you list out, I'm going to do Owens Corning, I'm going to put the peel and stick on, I'm going to do all this. And then you email your bid, or you drop it off at the house, and there's 2 or 3 other guys or companies rather that are doing the same thing. And you've just left the homeowner in a really bad position because now they don't know who to choose, and that's your fault.
Yeah, it's interesting. John DeRosa, back to John DeRosa, he actually made a post earlier this week. I don't know if you saw it, Nick, in the SRS Academy page, to where he said, if you and another contractor go in and you guys are putting on identical materials and you have identical installation processes, what's going to make the homeowner choose you over them?
They're not. They're gonna say everything is equal. Why wouldn't I go with the better price? And I always use the car shopping analogy when I'm training my guys, because you look at how people are taught to shop, and cars are the best one. They look at, all right, I want this car and I want these features in this car. And so now that I've nailed down the color of the car, the features of the car that I want, I'm going to be able to go out and shop on price. And that's a fair way for them to do it, because they've already figured out what they need, what they want, and now they're going to go out and get the best price. The problem in our scenario is they don't actually know the features that they need. So they can't choose those features before they go out and shop for a roofer. They look at things like reviews, and there's been a little bit more tools out there for people to use now to maybe have a little bit better idea. But still, we all know that, and I know a company that does it. I know the guy, he's a scumbag. He's bought like 300 5-star reviews, and I know they're fake.
Yeah,
I know they're fake Google reviews. And we tell people that, we say, look, people go out and they buy fake reviews. People go out and they do these things to make themselves look better. So here's what you need to look at in totality before you make a purchasing decision. You're going to spend a lot of money with somebody. Make sure you do it with the person you're comfortable with. And if that means it's not us, that's okay. But at least you have the information and the transparency to make that decision so that you can actually make an educated decision. And sometimes we lose because those things don't factor in as much as price.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I always used to say too, is like, hey, if I'm not the person you go with, these are some people I would suggest. And if you're going with one of those, then I'm happy to kind of lose the business to that person, because at the end of the day, I know you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah,
and that's important. And one of the things, I guess, before we flip over the screen, Pete, one of the things that kind of made us create the proposals in Roofr was along the lines of the marketplace, when we were giving out quotes that looked very similar to our other competitors, let's say, to these customers, and we were going over them. I could wax poetically. I could tell you the value of the company, the value of the additional insurance that I'm providing, what we're going to do with the roof, and why you should choose us, and really push that value there. But at the end of the day, when that customer went back and talked to their husband or wife at the kitchen table after I left, after we got off the phone, after the Zoom or whatever, and they're looking at 2 quotes that look relatively similar side by side, but the biggest difference is the price. To Corey's point, who are they going to go with? Yeah. They're not a roofer. They don't understand that if I'm putting in this ice and water shield up the valley as well as the flashings, it's better than just putting it on the bottom 3 feet of the eaves. So where was that? Where could we display that value even after we left? Where could they have that stuff? And that's where we started building out the proposal system to build a more comprehensive quote to show your value, to show what you're doing, to show why you're different. And that's a big thing. And I honestly, I'm hard pressed to think of anybody that's using that system better than you, Corey, and your presentation that you have.
I'm going to use a couple. I mean, I'm an analogy guy. I love analogies. So I'm going to use a couple of analogies. Proposals are great. They're amazing. All right. But the proposal by itself is like a beautiful woman with a bad personality, right? You have a beautiful woman and she's great looking, but she has a bad personality. So nobody wants to be around her. Nobody understands her. So she's not as effective as a beautiful woman with a great personality. And so what I say is you not only do you have to have these proposals, but you have to have some context in terms of like how to present that proposal so you get the result that you need, right? And one of the things that I always caution, my sales team about, and it's pretty common, we see it a lot in the industry, is you can't get to the homeowner and start puking information on them, because you'll overwhelm them, and then B, they probably won't like you very much. And I use this analogy as well. Let's say you're at a picnic, right? And you go to a picnic, you got your plate of food and you sit down next to somebody and they just start talking about themselves the entire time, just telling you how great they are, talking about like how cool they are, all the cool stuff they do, all of that. You're going to like get up in a few minutes after you're done with your food and you're like, I don't even like that person, right? Like, who is that, right? You have to be able to meet the homeowner where they're at. And so in order to do that, you have to have a well-crafted process. I know Pete's a process guy. I'm a process guy. And so you have to have a well-crafted process. And so this is where I don't want people to just be misled and think, oh, just because you create this proposal, you're gonna increase your sales closing rate 90%. Like, people are out there promoting that, which is horseshit, and we all know it. It'll help. Look, if you go in and you have a really nice proposal and everybody else has 3-part carbon copy, 2-line estimates, yeah, that's going to help for sure. All right. But I want to talk through how you actually use these to have some sort of cohesiveness to what you're trying to accomplish in terms of, because this is sales related. I mean, we don't make money creating nice proposals. We don't make money doing estimates. We don't make money doing any of that. We make money selling and building roofs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, let's dive into it and take a look so you can actually show everybody, Corey, exactly how you guys are using Roofr, to help with that sales process. Because I think, I already see questions popping up, and I'm sure, some of the lack of usage potentially from some people is on our proposal end is maybe around the education of not really understanding the best way to utilize that tool. So I'll let you dive into it. I know you've got something you want to share here on your screen. So, let you dive in and show you how you do it and how you have it set up.
Yeah. You guys, you're a tool provider, right? And that's what you guys do. And you teach people how to use that tool. What I do is I provide context for that tool, and I teach people how to use that tool with maximum effectiveness. All right. So let's look at you guys as the nail gun producer, right? You guys produce a really nice nail gun, and you'll tell people all the features on how to use that nail gun. What I'm going to do is I train people, and I teach people real world how to actually use that nail gun to install a roof. All right. All right. So.
Yeah. I think, we often talk about, I even talk about it in a presentation, like we are a tool, right? Like any other tool in your tool belt. And, a tool is only as good as the process that you plug it into, right? If you have a good process and you have a good, organized flow, then putting this tool in place is just going to make it that much more powerful and it's going to do things like make you more efficient, like you said, save you a ton of time, make you more organized. But, understanding that the process is there around how to utilize this tool was, like you said, we're just a tool. Like, we can create a great estimate, but if the guy can't sell it effectively, then you've done it for nothing, right? So, I think that's important to note. And I think that's one thing that, why we've teamed up with you, Corey, is to really kind of help us to take that tool and show these guys how to move it from just a tool into a process that they can utilize and be effective with.
Yeah, and I want to say that I've made this as simple. I have a ninth grade education. Okay, so this isn't something where you have to be, super smart, super savvy, whatever. I took what I've learned over the years, and I thought, okay, how can roofers use this effectively? How can they train their team effectively? How can we make this really easy? So we started out with a pitch deck on. Well, I'm gonna back up a little bit. I started out with PowerPoint. We've moved over to Engage, but this is basically the same thing that we do on Engage, simplified in the proposal. Put this in the proposal. Okay, so we do our presentation somewhere else, but it's the same exact process. Okay. So what we did, we started out with on Google Slides, and we built out all of these slides, which, if anybody's on here listening, if you want us to build out your slides, we can do this for you, and Roofr can help you put your proposals together, just so it's plug and play. But we went in here and we created these slides with the information that we wanted to convey to the homeowner. And it starts out with education. Then we have a break where we engage the homeowners and we talk to the homeowners and we ask them questions, because again, if you just sit there and puke information on them, it's not gonna go very well. So we want to get them engaged. And so what we did is we created all these slides to follow the logic and the process of the presentation. And then we went into Roofr and we built out this really nice proposal. And so I don't think I need to show my portal. Okay, can you guys see this PDF?
Yep.
Okay, so this is just a PDF that we built out. This is one of the proposals that we built in Roofr, and it's printed on a PDF. So you can either do it. We use iPads in the home or laptops, but if you have a printer in your truck, you can do it. So you create you get your measurement report. My guys usually draw them up because it's a little bit quicker, but if it's really complex, we'll order the Roofr report. We'll go in, we'll choose the template. And then we'll build out the proposal. And this process, from them drawing the roof to having this proposal, is roughly about 7 to 10 minutes. You sitting in the driveway. You can do it sitting in the driveway in your truck or car. And so we have a welcome page. You can either put the homeowner's home on there, which a lot of my guys do. I think Victor made a comment in there. He likes putting the homeowner's house on there, which is great because they get a nice visual for their home. We have a welcome page in there. It's got the address, the customer, the sales rep, the company, all of that stuff, and then our logo. And then it gets into our presentation that we sit down and we start talking to the homeowner about. And we talk to them, we set terms for the conversation. We say, we're just going to cover 4 quick things with you today. We're going to talk about your roof inspection. We're going to talk to you about, things that we found helpful. Our customers have found helpful about choosing a contractor. We'll talk a little bit about us, and then we'll talk about next steps. Seems quick and easy, right? Then we talk to them about the inspection process. We talk to them about what we're looking at, what we found on their roof, how we grade their roof, and then what we're going to recommend. And so this would work really well in the insurance process as well, because you have to do the inspection, you have to do your assessment, and then you have to give your recommendation. So it's the same basic process. We talk to them about, condition, how we grade it. And we talk to them about what we look at, where we look at, and then we pull up their inspection report. We use Company Cam. We pull up what we found. We have like 5 or 6 pictures that we go through with them based on what we've told them we grade roofs on: granular loss, missing, cracked, torn shingles, bad workmanship, flashings, and drainage. And that's basically it, right? And we have a couple of other things in there that we talk to them about. We show them those things on Company Cam, what's going on with their roof. And then we get them to buy into what our recommendation is. We say, hey, we found this. We can either repair it or we can replace it. Do you agree? And they say yes. And then we start talking to them about the other part of this, which is the contractor. And so we ask them, have you ever had a bad experience with a contractor? And we talk to them about that. And the reason we talk to them about that is then we talk to them about what's going on in the industry. And we have what's called our industry slides. And we say, hey, do you know that contractors have the highest rate of customer complaints according to the Better Business Bureau? And then we have some other stats about the industry that we go through with. We talk to them about a few things. And then we say, okay, now here are 7 keys to choosing the right contractor. And this isn't what we're telling you. These are what our customers over the years have told us are helpful things for them to look at. They wish they would have known before they hired their contractor. And we go through those, what that looks like. And then we break down each part of what that looks like in terms of, us, our reviews, our certifications, our team, actually having a team in place to make sure things go smoothly. That's a huge one that they never think about. We ask them, what do you think happens if something goes wrong on a project? How do you think that gets handled? And we talk to them about that. We talk to them about, I'm in Florida, so you have to be licensed. We talk to them about the licensing and the license holder, who's actually the license holder. We talk to them about insurance, workers' comp. We know that a lot of people here kind of skirt the law, the workman's comp law here, and how to make sure the company actually has workers' comp. And then we have after we do this, then we have what's called our trial questions. So we do some questions, and we start talking to them about some of the stuff, that information that we just presented to them. We haven't even gotten into the estimate yet. Right. And this is where I like what you said earlier, Pete, about there's the presentation side and then there's the proposal side. And really those things are one and the same, and they need to be one and the same. And this is why I think it's so valuable to use this tool like this, so that you can put this together and you can actually help the homeowners understand things about their project that they can't get from you just giving them an estimate about what your work scope and what your price is.
And that goes right into what we were talking about before. Is number one, that's templated, right? So you could always have it open up the same way, and then you just build the proposal. So you already have those slides in. But it goes back to what you were talking about before, is selling them on you, telling them that story, showing the value up front. We haven't even touched the product yet. We just talked about existing stuff on their roof, what the industry is like, and what they want, which is much more needed.
Well, here's the thing. You're right. So, I'm showing you guys my Roofr portal, and you're absolutely right. So we have all these templates that we've put together where, we have just a golden pledge. We have shingle to metal. We have TPO, we have tile, we have just metal, and a couple different metal systems. So what's really great about this is sometimes customers will ask us, hey, what's the difference between shingle and metal? What's the price difference between shingle and metal? So we can have these shingle and metal proposals already templated and built out. We can take our measurement report. So let me just go to, one of these measurement reports, right? So we have this measurement report that's done from Roofr, and all we have to do is go in here, click the button, choose the template that we want. So, we can use any of them, so we can select any of them. and click a button. I don't want to create another one because I might confuse my team, but click a button and it's done. You got to go in there and you got to put your waste factor in there, whatever it is, because Roofr can't calculate that for you. But you just go down line item by line item, and I'm going to show how we do it. I mean, you could just do a lump if you want. I mean, I don't think it's as powerful, but you can just do a lump sum or whatever and put your waste factor on there, however you want to do it. But regardless, it takes, I don't know, 15 seconds for it to populate. And then you've got this really great proposal ready to go. And our estimates, we're pretty detailed with our estimates. So we put a full work scope in our estimate. And the reason we do that is because, again, we're retail. And so rather than trying to fight with a homeowner about a change order, we get all this stuff out front. We talk to them about this stuff up front, so that if we do have additional work, we do have to do some things that are outside our work scope, we can ask for the change order pretty easily. So we find that doing a really detailed estimate and work scope is much more effective for educating the homeowner and making sure that you don't run into any stumbling blocks later on down the road. If you are retailing, if you do have to write a change order, it's much, much easier to get the change order written when you do it like this, because you can always reference this stuff back at the, when they're hemming and hawing about the change order, you can reference back to it. So we create this really nice narrative underneath each line item that lays out everything that we're going to do on the work scope. We talk about gutters because that's the bane of my existence, existing gutters. And, we tell them, hey, they're single-use products. So anything that we might run into that we know that's become an issue, we address head on here with the homeowner, and we talk to them about it. And then we go through everything that we're going to put on the roof. All the materials that we're going to use to build their roof system, how we're going to give them their warranties and all that stuff. And then the price. And if you'll notice, we always present the highest price first, because we want to do that. We want to present the highest price, and then we can ask them for the business. And if they're hem and hawing about the price, then we can do our drop downs, which are, we have a couple. We have the good, better, best, but we do the best, better, good, because it's a lot easier to go low after you've gone high than it is to go high after you've gone low. It just doesn't work as well. So you can organize this, whatever works best for you, whatever your process is. That's the other thing I really like about it, is you can literally move the pages however you want to make it, it's very flexible.
There's a really cool stat that we're here where actually at our Rise tours, the stat is where I learned it from one of the speakers, Bob Marsh, that it's about option closes, giving people multiple options there. It's a really crazy stat. 97% of people will hold on making a decision if they're only presented with one option.
Yeah.
Shows the importance of like a good, better, best, and being able to give them something that's like good, better, best, exactly that breakdown where you can then make a decision because they feel comfortable. They feel that they are not pigeonholed into a corner and stuff like that. So it's a really, really cool thing to actually have those multiple options.
Yeah, I did a training years ago with a remodeling contractor, who he was in Washington D.C. and I did this at KBiz in like 2010, and he said, whoever has the most options always wins. Right. And what they used to do, which was pretty cool because there wasn't a whole lot of technology, what they used to do is they actually, and they were a remodeling contractor. So whatever they were doing, whether it was a kitchen or bathroom or whatever, they would do a good, better, best. And they would do like this nice board where they had like tile samples and like a couple like pictures of vanities and like what you would get on the good, what you would get on the better, and what you would get on the best. And they would talk about the differences of like the construction of the vanity and the tile and all that stuff. So people have always done this. And I think that was a really creative way for them to do it. But yeah, that really speaks to that stat because one of my sales guys is actually in here and he said, it's crazy how many people only get one option. Yeah.
And one of the things that I want to make a point of saying, because you and I talked about this, Corey, but when you create a presentation like Corey's created there, it standardizes the way that everyone presents the company, right? If Corey is going out and I'm a salesman for Corey, or Derek, who's a salesman for Corey, goes out and they present South Shore Roofing, we're all going to present it the same because we're using that presentation, walking the customer through the same slides, right? So as a process guy, I love that, right? Like it makes it very easy to make sure that my team is consistently sending the same message, to the customer base. Where, if we just turn them loose and say, hey, go out, go out and just make a presentation, tell them why we're the best, and then hand them this proposal, it's going to be all over the map, right? And this way, you guys have really done a great job of making it very uniform and making sure that we're consistent in how the company is presented.
Well, it's easier to train your sales team when you have a plug-in process. It's easier to train your sales team. And I always say this: you're creating a narrative. It's kind of cliche. I hate saying it, but it's true. You're telling the company story. And if there's no clarity, if you can't teach your new hires the company story with clarity and consistency, they're going to have a really hard time telling that company story. So yeah, you're 1,000,000% right on that. And I'm just my shameless plug. I put my email in there. If you guys want any parts of the process, if you guys want us to build out your PDF deck, if you want us to build you out a Google Slides deck, whatever you need, we can do it. We can do it for you quickly, easily, simply. That way you guys can put this together. Roofr can put this proposal together, and we can teach you how to tell that company story. So if you're growing, you got a sales team, or you're thinking about hiring a sales, somebody for sales or whatever, let's get you set up with this stuff so you have that process in place so you can train those people on how to tell your company story. And spoiler alert, guys, if you use this the right way, nobody else is talking to your homeowner or your prospect like this. Nobody. And so you're going to stand out. You're going to give them this perception of more quality, more put together, more professional. And that, along with the sales process, is going to help you close more deals.
Yeah, I mean, great. I think we're getting close here on time, but I really think what Corey showed you guys today shows you the power of Roofr and how you can really put this product to work for you. I asked a question in there: how many guys are using measurements versus proposals? I think that we see that a lot, and really, it is a powerful tool, right? Our proposal tool is a powerful tool when used correctly, and Corey's on board here as a partner of ours to help you guys to really get the most out of that. And, take advantage of it. Take advantage of our team internally to help you guys get it set up. Jessica, I saw you asked a question. Make sure that you guys are taking advantage of our team internally to get your templates going, to get your catalog set up. So you've got all that information in there, and then we can obviously steer you to Corey as well, to get help with this type of a presentation and get something as powerful as what Corey's got set up. So,
yeah. And Pete, Nick, and I, starting at the end of September, we're probably going to do 2 or 3 in October. We're going to do some free trainings on how to set these up, understanding the structure of your sales process and actually how to use this more effectively. And they're free trainings, and they're really just going to be about helping everybody understand the how to use these in context to your sales process. It doesn't matter if you do insurance, it doesn't matter if you do retail, it doesn't matter if you sell windows, it doesn't matter if you sell siding, it does not matter. The framework is the same and the method and process is going to be the same. So Roofr is really helping you guys out in terms of, partnering with me to teach you guys how to actually provide some context to use this stuff effectively. And we'll let you guys know exactly what the schedule is. We'll probably have that to you next week.
Yeah, definitely stay tuned for that, guys. Those are going to be some great trainings, and like Corey said, they're free. So yeah, man, I really appreciate you jumping on, Corey. I think this has been some great information. Definitely, a powerful presentation there that you showed everybody. Any last comments from you, Nick?
I think that teaching people to sell like this with visuals and really talking about how you differentiate yourself is going to be just so valuable for everybody out there, because Corey is not a guy who likes to talk about himself this much, but like if you're thinking about this, everyone, but Corey's went from 2018 to now turning into a massive company. That's a short amount of time, and he's done that by like making sure that he's adopting tech and building out these sales processes and structures. So if there's anybody in the industry to learn from, Corey's the guy.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, my bald head is not for nothing.
Exactly. Can you give out your email one more time, just so that everybody could hear it? Because I see a couple people made comments.
I don't. I'm trying it. I think the @ symbol screwed it up.
There we are.
Yeah, it's screwing it up. It's Corey, COREY at ssrflorida.com. Just email me and we'll get you set up, and we'll kind of talk about what you need and see if we can help you out.
Great. Well, we appreciate everybody jumping on today. Like I said, some really great information. Hopefully, guys, you got all gained some insight here on how to better use the platform, and hopefully we can help you out here in the future to to get some stuff done here, and maybe help get Corey on board to help you guys get set up and get everything going. And just want to thank you guys for jumping on, and we will see you next time on the Roofr Masterclass.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Corey.